So that shaped my life back in 2010. That morning that everything went down, her Facebook status was live for today, tomorrow is promised to us. And I had that tattooed on my arm. And sometimes I just look at it and I'm like, man, I really got it comes down to gratitude. And so sometimes when I find myself being a jerk, I have to look and be like, all right, take a breath for a second. You have way more than you do. And so losing her kind of flipped the game for me because I was taking everything for granted.
Today's guest is someone who didn't just build a brand, he became one. So Justin Bruce went from retail management to becoming one of the most recognizable names in his market, not by chasing leads, but by building relationships brick by brick. In a world obsessed with shortcuts and automation, Justin did the unscalable. So in 2022 alone, he packed his calendar with coffee houses, lunches, happy hours, stacking real relationships while most agents, they were busy scrolling. He's the founder of Elite Collective, a video-first, people-first real estate brand. He built a niche in sports and entertainment, and he's part of ADTB. And more importantly, he's earned his reputation giving without expectation. So today we're going to be diving into the grind you didn't see on Instagram, what went wrong, what clicked, and what Justin wishes more agents understood about serving, scaling, and standing out. Let's get into it. So let's start with the grind that no one saw. Tell me a little bit about what you were doing in 2022 that kind of shaped where you are right now.
Yeah. 2022, I kind of joke, that was the year of yes. That was the year of life. If somebody said, you want to have coffee, you want to have lunch, it was always yes.
Okay.
Do you want to do this happy hour? Do you want to do this game? Do you want to go on this trip? You want to go cross country? Yes, yes, yes. It was all about relationships, meeting people, and just continuing to create activity, any kind of activity. Okay. And so I spent that entire year, it was almost 3 times a day, really, breakfast, lunch, happy hour, dinner, a game, something. And I would just try to find people that were influential. People, maybe not even in real estate,
right?
Just people who are movers, shakers, who are doing stuff and had a good energy following.
So tell me about that moment that there had to have been some sort of epiphany or break or what happened to cause you to go from saying maybe to yes to everything during that moment.
Sure. So I fell into real estate by accident. And so the first 6 months was not very structured. I was on another team, didn't really know a whole lot. I was watching a video, I don't even remember how, but Gary Vee popped up. And, we're both big fans. And, excuse me, he started talking about being the digital mayor of your area. And that just struck me. It was like, everything's changing in the industry. Everything's changing in the world. Everything's becoming so automated. You've got to be the digital mayor of your area if you want to be super, uber successful. Okay. So I started watching and I listened to what he was talking about. And it was not about you. It was about going in on your community and being the go-to resource for everything, not real estate.
So how do you determine what was going to be the people that you wanted to connect with, say yes to? There had to be some filter. Wouldn't you just say carte blanche yes to everybody?
That was one of my big mistakes was I said yes to everybody. I didn't have a niche. I didn't have, anything to focus on. And so it was saying yes to everything, and that is very draining.
So during that time period, I assume that was kind of the springboard, the trampoline that got you to where you are right now. But what was the value that you gained by networking with the right people?
Sure. So one, activity breeds activity. So a lot of the stuff I did in that year, I can't point to a sale in 2022 in real estate.
Yeah.
But I can point to sales now from stuff I did in 2022. But that pivoting point for me was I found Keller Williams Sports Entertainment Division.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. So that was December of 22. That's when it started. I was one of the first ones to join.
Okay.
And I just decided literally overnight, I'm going to be the sports entertainment guy.
Okay.
Never worked with an athlete, never worked with an entertainer, didn't know a whole lot of athletes. Mm-hmm. I just said, but I love access. And my 9-year-old loves access.
Okay.
And so we both love sports. So it was something I could kind of bring the family into, but also I enjoyed that side of it. After working with my first athlete, I realized how not protected they are and how they get taken advantage of a lot.
They do.
And all of a sudden something clicked for me and I was like, I want to be the guy who keeps that from happening.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I worked with an Atlanta Falcons football player late last year, and young kid right out of Ohio State, and he's super impressionable. And the trouble was he was really good at being an athlete. He knew nothing about buying a house. So I think what we do is, and we see these people who are wealthy, successful,
And we put them on the pedestal that they're infallible. But in reality, he was just a young kid that didn't know any better. So I'm glad that you're sticking up for those people, because just like us when it comes to real estate and their insecurities.
Could you imagine if we were 19 years old and someone handed us $1 million? Like, what would I couldn't figure out life back then.
Right.
What would I do with all that money? So being a resource for them, and my phone rings 9 out of 10 times from an athlete, nothing to do with this.
Okay.
Hey, the hose spigot's broken. What do I do? My wife needs to get her hair done. Where is she?
Right.
My kid wants to play hockey. So you become a resource and you become kind of that trusted confidant for them. You can help them with all the other things in their life. And that's kind of intrinsically to me what's exciting. Now, my son gets to be on the field.
Yeah.
That's the other side.
Yeah, I've seen some of those pictures and it's awesome. But I'm sure that you have a ton of stories. And I'm sure that you have a ton of connections with people. Like, wow, that's cool. But like, was there one story in particular that you really hang your hat on? Like, this is exactly why I'm doing this.
There are a million. And the thing about sports entertainment is discretion. So
of course,
most people don't know most of the people that I work with.
Right.
And that's on purpose. Some of the guys, like for instance, the Columbus Crew guys, they've become more friends on top of clients. And so when they ask me to put something on Facebook or Instagram and tag them, they want the publicity. They want to use it to grow their brands. But some of the other sports are not so much like that. They want to keep it very quiet. There's a lot of guys I work with that nobody will ever know that I work with them. But I will say in this industry, probably my favorite is Christian Ramirez. Just got traded, unfortunately, to LA. And he was one of the first guys I ever worked with in sports entertainment. Families became friends, and my son looks at him like an idol. And he is a role model that I want my son to look to as a role model. Not every athlete is like that.
Not a lot of boys have role models.
Absolutely. So my son wears number 17.
Okay.
He watches every game. He knows all Christian stats. And he's a family man. He cares about family first. He makes his decisions based on that. And that's how I am. It's not business first. It is family first.
Well, I mean, to that point, you almost kind of pseudo become a family member, because like when these guys, one thing that I've learned with working with a couple of athletes is their lives they can be upended really quickly. So when they come to a new town like Columbus, it's they don't know anybody. And outside of maybe a couple of teammates. So you are probably one of the few people that they know, like, they trust in your town. And I'm sure that comes with a ton of responsibility and pressure too.
100%. And some of them, I know the parents, and the parents look to me to be that resource for them and to be the one looking out for them. Right. Because you're right. Some of them are 22, 23 years old. They come to a town, they get a call on a Thursday. They're on a plane Thursday night to the next place.
Yes.
And so, I mean, it is very quick. But it's cool. We get to build those relationships. We get to help them out. And it's not just one-sided for me. I get a lot of value out of what these guys are doing, and watching a 23-year-old buy a house. I couldn't do anything at 23. I was still trying to figure out life, and they have investments, 2-3 houses. And it's really cool to see that, and to have my kids see that there is this path, even if you're a celebrity, to do things the right way.
Right. Well, and for you, that definitely increases the cool points, and dads were always looking for extra cool points. So
Absolutely.
You having that access to these athletes that your kids look up to, that's got to be value for them.
It's almost not fair. They do love it. I love it. Absolutely. Because I don't even think my 9-year-old knows how cool that is right now. 9 years from now, I bet you he looks back and goes, "Oh, I was on the field in the Eastern Conference Finals. That is pretty cool."
Now, if you could just convince my daughters that I'm as cool as you, then you'd be in good shape. Okay. So as you scaled and as you were building your network, and once again, the old cliche, and it's cliche for a reason, but like your net worth is your network. So as you were building your personal brand, we're going to get into it a little bit, you had to have some help along the way. So tell me about your process and what it was like trying to build a team to help support you, support your clients, and help you keep your sanity.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a couple different questions. One, I tried to build a team straight out early, and I failed. And I feel like anybody who listens to this, you've got to fail over and over again. Okay. I fail every week. I fail at something. This was a big one. I tried to build a team before I was ready. I didn't have the foundation. Okay. I didn't know why I wanted a team. You can't build a team. You don't know why you don't want a team. So that was a big failure for me. And then I built my personal business by grinding hard. And I needed to get that in place first, because I felt like I can't lead a team and teach people things I haven't done. I was definitely an armchair quarterback. Like, "Oh, you guys should go do all these open houses. You should do this and this." And it's like, I'd never done an open house. my business was very relationship based. So I needed to do those things to say, I've been there.
Right.
And now I have the production that when I say something, I have imposter syndrome terribly. And so it's hard for me to talk about.
Right.
But I used to be able to not say things because I'm like, well, I don't have the production to really back that up. Well, I have the production, and I chased that for that reason. I chased it to get there to say, okay, when I tell you to do this, it's because I've already done it, and here's the results.
Coming from authority and not figure like
100%.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because one thing that I've seen over doing this for 20 years is like most of the coaches, most of the brokers, most of the team leads are very dogmatic. Like if you don't make 100 phone calls a day, you're going to fail. If you don't door knock 20 doors a week, you're going to fail. But a lot of them didn't do it themselves, and a lot of them are just regurgitating what they heard someone else say. Or this is something that they did a skillion years ago when they did it when they were a dinosaur, when they were a baby dinosaur. So it's good to see that you were actually leading from the front and what's actually working versus just do what I say and not what I do. So
Here's the other piece. Just because the book says this is how you can do it to be successful, there's a million ways to be successful that aren't in those books. I didn't follow the book. I didn't do open houses. I didn't door knock. I didn't make calls.
Right.
I built it all in relationships and all on video. And that was never taught to me. That was just something I found on my own.
Right.
And now I feel like it's my responsibility to pass this down. Right. So my team, people in my network. The other thing you talked about was coaching. And I think that in order to be a coach, you need to be coached, you need to be coachable. Yeah. And so I hired Tyler Mount last year.
Okay.
Who, anybody who doesn't know Tyler Mount, he worked with Ryan Serkin as his brand strategist, head of Zillow. He's worked with presidents.
Right.
This guy is no joke.
Right.
And we focus so hard on personal brand. And so now I understand the vision behind my brand, and I can now articulate that to people, and it attracts.
It's clear. Yeah. It's funny. So going back to something you mentioned a little bit ago, and other guests on the show have mentioned the same thing. It's like the failure. Like I don't think we don't talk about that nearly enough. So was it that you had a fear of failure or a lack of fear of failure, or you didn't have any choice because you're backwards? Talk about those moments where you stepped your neck out and it didn't work.
Yeah. So I mean, Instagram's a highlight reel. Everybody sees
yes
the fun. Everybody, I get it all the time. Justin, your life's so great. Nothing ever goes wrong. Guys, let me tell you, that's not the truth. You got to stack the failures.
Okay.
For me, I was never the biggest kid. I was never the strongest, the smartest. So I mean, I got picked on in high school, and I think I've had a chip on my shoulder ever since that I want to do more and be better. And so I can't point to a moment where things switched, but I've always had that work ethic. I think it comes from my parents. They own businesses, a chain of stores. I've always had that work ethic. I'm not as good as you. I'm not as good looking as you. I'm not as tall as you, but I'm going to outwork you.
Right.
You're not going to start before me or finish after me.
That's
the
Kobe model mentality.
Yeah, model mentality. It's very similar of like first one in the gym, last one out.
Exactly.
That's the only chance I have with people. I'm not going to beat you straight on how smart I am or how good I am.
And at this point, you have so much momentum behind you. Things are, I would assume, getting easier, and you're creating gravity for yourself when you're pulling things in versus you have to chase.
Yes, and that is attributed to systems and processes. And the word I really talk about all the time, my team will tell you, is leverage. You have to find leverage, because if you can't go on a vacation, you don't have a business. You have a job. Right? If you can't leave and your business doesn't run without you, you can't do that. So I figured out, over the past probably year and a half, is leveraging showing agents, leveraging a transaction coordinator, leveraging an assistant. So many pieces inside my business, but then also leveraging partners, loan officers, title, venture capital, private equity. People don't think about all these people you can surround yourself with where you bring value to them. They innately want to bring value to them.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Hey, sorry for the interruption, but are you a real estate agent trying to grow your business, but feel stuck posting random content, working inconsistent leads, and guessing what is actually going to work? So hit the subscribe button and follow this channel, where I'm going to break down the exact systems and strategies top agents, like the one that you're watching, are using right now to generate leads, convert clients, and build a business that's going to last. So no fluff, no guru nonsense, just real stories, real results of what's actually working in the field right now. So go click that subscribe button. Let's get back to work.
So before we started today, you said that you used to think that you had to wear a suit, drive a fancy car. So I don't know if that's, you think that you had to front, but like we all get tied into that imposter syndrome. If I don't look this way, then I must be this way. So talk to me about that shift that you went from needing the 3-piece suit to just being it.
I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I just saw the successful realtors and my mentor even, and was like, well, I just need to dress like that and be like that to be successful.
So the emulation.
Just wanted to, I thought that's what I didn't know anything. And then I realized that I was trying to be something I wasn't, and it wasn't attracting the people I wanted to do business with. And so I just stopped doing that. I have jeans on today, but typically I'm in Jordans and joggers and probably a hoodie, t-shirt, shorts, whatever every day. That's authentically me. I coaching practice 5 nights a week. So I'm always in those clothes anyway. I just started wearing them every day, being authentically me. And I started attracting the kind of people that I wanted to do business with.
It's really funny how that happens. I used to be a 3-piece suit guy myself, and then COVID happened, and I made the most amount of money I've ever made in flip-flops and gym shorts. And when we came back, I was noticing that a lot of the people that I want to work with, like you, like Warren, like a lot of my partners, they are dressing differently than they did before, and kind of emulating that. I am bossing right now. It would be weird if I showed up to a meeting with my suit now. I think the whole industry is kind of shifted, even with their clients too.
Sure. Yeah. And I'm the same way. I mean, I'm not showing up in, a swimsuit and a tank top. Although if you catch me and you need a showing and I'm in the pool, you may catch me like that. Right. But typically it's still presentable. Yeah. It's just, I think the world's changed a lot since COVID. It's not quite the stuffy world that my dad was in. We get to make our own rules now. And I think people just are more authentic and appreciate the authenticity.
So, I mean, with you being in sports and entertainment, do you have to, like, you have a 23-year-old NFL player that is making skillions of dollars, to change, or do you still stay authentically Justin and then just rock with it? How does that work?
We can get raw about this. So I'm wearing joggers and Jordan. Now the reason I wear these Jordan 1s is because of the sport and entertainment. Yeah. I have all different colors, and the guys know that. Right. I drive the car I drive because of the clout that it got me in that world. Mm-hmm. Sure. Do I need the car that I have? When I did the comedy thing, I told a joke about this because it is the stereotypical, I won't say it on your podcast, realtor. And sometimes that's a joke to play on, but that was kind of the brand that I had, but that was authentically me. I always wanted to have that car, and I made up money to do it, and I got it. So, but I'm still authentically me all the time, and that's where the success is.
So you mentioned that you joined the sports and entertainment thing, Keller, right? Okay, so you changed brokerages recently. Has that changed anything, or your affiliations or anything?
This is what's great about personal brand, okay? Because people want to do business with you. Okay. So most clients, 99.9%, could care less with brokerages. Keller Sports and Entertainment was a great boost for me because I had no brand when I started. So I used that to create a brand of Justin. Right. Now I've moved to Real, which is, I believe, very tech forward, very AI forward, very everything that I was looking for. And Sharon is the one who sealed that deal for me. I was on the Zoom with him and just listening to that man for 15 minutes. Oh yeah. I was like, here's who I want to tie my card to.
Yes.
And what they're doing, just moving forward with, video is a huge part of my business, and what those guys are doing. And here's the difference with Real. And this isn't a pitch on brokerage, but this is, I feel like a lot of brokerages, and I'm no knock to Keller Williams, I've had a great relationship and a great experience with them. I feel like they're silos, and you're stuck in whether it's a market center or if you're in a downline with a company like DXP or one of those. And no knock to them either, a great company. Real, you have 26,000 agents, and it's all one team. They preach one Real.
So very flat org chart versus very...
Yeah, there's no like, oh, I can't talk to him because he's a massive agent. I can't talk to him because he's too good for me. Right. I can message these guys and be like, hey, I want to up my game on this. What camera are you using for this? Or what are you doing for this? Or maybe somebody's doing better on relationships, or somebody's really good at open houses. Everybody's responding and everybody's helping each other. And that was the reason I made the change is I wanted to be surrounded with people like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's funny that you mentioned that because I was a fanboy for King and Tim for a while, went to their second year of real estate video blueprint. And as a lender, I was one of 2 other lenders in the room, and there was like 600 agents. It was no doubt the warmest atmosphere that I've ever been. Everyone welcomed me in. And a group of agents from San Diego saw me sitting by myself, come on in. And it was weird. It was awkward. I made it probably worse, but like the culture, the warmness, and just the willingness just to give And like, if I ever become an agent, it's going to be real without question.
That's amazing.
So, I mean, it was very exciting to see you and just the growth of other agents here in town jump into what I already saw. I'm really excited to see where you guys are going to take this.
The we versus me is very exciting to me. And then also I built such a national network of agents that are friends of mine that they're now seeing it and my phone ringing going, can you show me this?
Yeah.
And there's so much opportunity with Real, with with rev share and with stock options that for me, I didn't have a retirement. You know what I mean?
It's just tough.
I own other businesses and none of us are employed, my wife or I. So this gives us a way to fund a retirement for us to, like I was talking about earlier, I want to pull myself out, business still run.
Right. So you did sports and entertainment. You have Real. Before you jumped to Real, there was AETV. Tell me about that.
The single biggest thing that changed my business. So you told me, Justin, 2025, you're only allowed to do one thing. Sure. That's the thing I would do.
So let's explain to me like I'm a fifth grade. What is AETV?
So AETV is a lifestyle community TV show hosted by real estate agents all over the country. Each city has 4 to 8 realtors that host. Must be a top producer, must do certain things to be selected. But then you're kind of the executive producer. So you can choose to feature whatever you want on the episode.
Really?
So you get 5 minutes. So there's 5 agents and a lender. Everybody gets 5 minutes. It's a 30-minute episode. It airs on Amazon Prime, Hulu, Tubi. The good ones go to HGTV and Travel Channel. I've done the Columbus Crew. I've done the Columbus Clippers. I've done Schmitz. I've done High Bank Distillery. I like to highlight businesses or charitable organizations. That's just my drive. And I try to tie it into relationships that I want to build. So before ATV, I didn't have a relationship with Columbus Crew. But guess what? I gave them this TV show for free. And they're like, well, why don't you just be realtor for the team? Well, why wouldn't I?
So now you are the official real estate agent for the Columbus Crew.
The legal department makes me say proud real estate partner of the Columbus Crew. But yes, that relationship's been wonderful. I had a relationship with the Columbus Clippers last year. There's some other ones I'm in talks with as well. ADTV is a game changer if you use it. There's so many ways to use it relationally. Everybody asks about ROI. Yes, there's ROI. I've sold a ton of houses because of ADTV. But the ROR, the relationships, the rings it has put me in. Can you imagine if you called the GM of a soccer team or a football team and you said, hey, I'm Justin the realtor. I'd love to do a video. I couldn't even finish that. Hey, I'm Justin, the Emmy-nominated TV show host of The American Dream. I'd love to feature you guys on what you're doing with charity. When do you want to do this?
Exactly.
I mean, it was one text message that made that all happen. And now I'm leveraging even more. There's some more coming that we can't talk about today, but we'll do this again.
Hey, please.
And there's bigger things even coming. And I would tell anybody out there, if you don't know what ATV is, game changer. Absolute game changer.
So in a world where TikTok, Instagram, Zillow, Realtor.com, leads, I mean, you guys are the most marketed to professional, hands down. So that leads to a lot of agents feeling scattered, cloudy, whatever you want to call it. So you picked a niche and you ran after it. So for someone who is like, for the typical agent who doesn't necessarily have a direction, what would you do to encourage them to, what's a good place to start to try to this stuff?
It's funny. I have lots of agents I'm interviewing right now for our team and do the conversations I'm having. The riches are in the niches. You gotta find what your niche is. For me, I love the accents, love sports entertainment. That's easy. I have a member of my team who has a Purple Heart. He should be owning the military part of it. But he's also very humble because guys like that who are Marines don't talk about that stuff. So teaching him how to be able to talk about that in a very humble way. Because the thing I teach my agents is the minute it's all about you, you've lost. I did this. I posted the top 100 realtor thing when Katie sent me the badge, I put it on my Facebook. I was so excited. I was an idiot. Like, why would I do that? That's about me. Nobody cares about me. Put the camera around. Make it about the client. So when I do a closing, instead of if you ever see me post a just sold, I want you to come form tackle. If you ever see that on my Instagram, I flip the camera around and I say, tell me about your experience.
Yes.
Not just with me, but tell me about the entire experience from the go. You struggled, you couldn't find a house, you kept losing out. We created a plan. We beat the multiple offers. Now you're in this house. Tell me about that process. It's no longer about me. It's about them. And guess what? They appreciate that. The people watching appreciate that. And guess what they do? They refer everybody they know to.
Oh, yeah.
And this all started with my chiropractic office.
Really?
Believe it or not.
What's the story behind that?
So my wife's business was doing very plateau before COVID. I came in and became the receptionist, swallowed my pride, ran the desk for a year, put in a bunch of processes and systems. One of them was a review text. You come in for an appointment, you get a text as soon as you leave. Please review us on Google. If you do it, next time you come in, you go, please review us on Facebook. Next time, review us on Yelp. You get 3 of them.
Nice.
If you Google Lancaster, Ohio chiropractor right now, number 2 reviews has about 150, I think. She's over 1,000. That changed the business.
Yeah.
Because we were doing things the right way. So she was fixing people and saying, go, get better. You're good. Instead of sign this long treatment plan, give us a bunch of money up front.
Yeah.
Guess what? People appreciated that and they tell everybody.
Yeah. So instead of healthcare, you look at healthcare.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that was the game changer.
So I think you touched on something, and the reason I had you on is because of, one, your brand build, and 2, you mentioned the niching thing. So inside of Agent Launch, we talk a lot about picking your ideal client. You beat that to death. So what has that done for you or for your agents that they pick one client, one avatar with Purple Heart, sports and entertainment, downside? What has that done for the individuals on your team that have really like made back their personality?
Yeah, starting to learn that is if you're trying to market to everybody, you're marketing to nobody, right? And so if you're doing all these things and nothing's coming back, you can't figure out why. As soon as you start to hone in on that, which is the Kellerism, what you focus on expands.
Oh yeah,
It's a bold law, right? And it is for real. I say it all the time to my team is if you're focused on that one thing, it can't help but just continue to grow. If you're trying to do too many, and I'm guilty of this, I have my hands in 1,000 different things, then you lose sight of the one thing. So you've got to get in that, and it has helped with our team. There, one of my team members last year, he doubled his sales by just focusing, and I think he'll do it again this year.
So one of the common objections that I get inside of the Agent Launch when we talk about picking one client is like, okay, I want to work with everybody because if I don't work with everyone, I'm going to be losing sales. Have you ever seen it to where when someone focuses on what they want, like ideal client or niche, that they haven't quadrupled their business and they've lost business as a result?
This is a common misconception. I have not. I've never seen it go the other direction. But just because I focus on sports and entertainment doesn't mean that's the only people that I work with. Of my deals last year, about 20% of them were athletes in Columbus. The rest of them were your normal everyday people, and they weren't one price point or one type of person. You're attracting people who want to work with. And sometimes those people have a $50,000 probate you need to help them with.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a Jackets player that needs to sell a $2.3 million condo. Right. All those things can happen at the same time. You can still have an avatar. Right? You're not just going to sell that avatar. That doesn't happen. If you get to that point, you beat the system. That's great. If you're doing 100 deals a year with just your avatar, phenomenal. But you're going to work with everybody,
right? But
you're going to choose who you work with. I turned down a 7-figure listing this week.
Okay.
Because I knew what a nightmare it'd be to work with.
Is that personality or just the architect?
I just too much personal connection of knowing what goes on behind the scenes, and I don't want to get involved. The money's not worth it. My peace. This is what I protect. I protect my peace.
And I think that comes not initially, but that comes when you have an abundance of clients to work with, because then you're not working off of, shoot, I got to pay my car payment next week. I got to take this lead and work with this asshole. And in my experience, the hairy dog only gets hairier the closer you get. A bad client only gets worse the closer you get. So when you figure out your ideal client, when you figure out your niche, does that help you kind of hone what kind of value you're adding to those specific clients?
It's a good question. For me, I guess I'm trying to bring value to everybody equally.
Okay.
And so that doesn't even cross my mind. I wake up every morning, and when I'm looking at what I have to do that day, is how am I going to bring value to these people with no expectation of anything in return? And that's what that first year was. And still to this day, it happens. Anytime that I see somebody that I think would benefit from somebody else in my circle, I'm always making a connection. If you can become that connector, I get texts all the time. Justin, the ultimate connector. Hey, you got to talk to Justin. He'll connect you. Or you need a CPA, you need a financial advisor, whatever you need. And I've done that on purpose, very intentionally, and asked for nothing in return. And some of those things, you never get anything from return from those people. And you've got to be okay with that and let that go. But the people that you do want to do this with, it's just going to continue to expand there.
Well, and then you're interjecting yourself, intentionally, unintentionally, into conversations that you probably wouldn't have access to otherwise. 100%. So that being said, one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on, and I gave you a list of things of how Justin fits into the launch method that we teach. So you talked about the offer. So like, what is it that you offer that really helps you stand out? Now, once again, we have the ideal client, it's kind of the top of the funnel. We have your lead magnet, which gets people to raise their hands. And then your offer, your core offers, what gets you paid. So like my core offer is mortgage, your core offer is helping people buy some houses. So inside of your offer, what are those essential services that you offer to your clients that kind of are those wow factors?
I think it's the systems and processes.
Okay, tell me about that.
For instance, I talk all the time. A client needs a frictionless process.
Okay.
And so my goal is to reduce every friction point from the day they meet me,
Right.
so they get the keys and walk into the house. And there's so many times that friction is going to occur and so many times where you can't control the friction. My goal is to try to reduce as much of that as possible. And I do that. First of all, you have to set the stage early. Hey, something's going to go wrong in the next 45 days. Sure. I got it.
Okay.
I need you to trust me wholly. I got it up front. And then I've created a process from start to finish, not only internally with transaction coordinators and showing agents and team members, but also externally with lenders, title, venture capital, private equity, financial advisors. That way, no matter what comes up during this, I have partners in place that can handle all of that. Gotcha. I think that's what sets us apart.
So systems, processes. So for someone who's not inside of real estate, if you're watching this, and once again, this is very uncommon language that you and I are speaking.
Yeah.
So if someone's watching this, it's not inside of real estate. If you had to boil down your offer to a fifth grade level, like if you were in front of career day in front of a fifth grade class, how would you explain what you do very simply?
Oh, goodness. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, got to have somebody go get a piece of paper that says they have money.
Okay.
And then I'm going to help them find a house that they like. Love it. And then we're going to negotiate with whoever has that house to make sure they can get good terms and they can get good terms. And then we're going to make sure they have enough money through you. And you're going to send the money to them and they're going to hand them the keys to the house. I mean, that's to boil it down very simply. But throughout that process, so many things go wrong. And we're going to be there to hold hands to say, okay, something came back wrong on this or that inspection appraisal, so many different things.
Right. I think that the second part is what I was really seeking. Like, no matter what happens, you got you. This is going to be easy. You got to take care of it. Absolutely. I love that. Love that. Love that. Okay. So you shared before we started the show, losing someone close to you. How did that kind of shape or get you to where you are?
It's funny. I didn't know where your office was before that.
Okay.
Ironically, it happened out front of the parking lot.
Really?
So there was an emotional drive in here today. I was like, interesting. No, but yeah, so that shaped my life back in 2010. That morning that everything went down, her Facebook status was live for today, tomorrow is a promise to us. And I have that tattooed on my arm. My sister has that tattooed on her foot. And sometimes I just look at it and I'm like, man, I've really got it comes down to gratitude. And so sometimes when I find myself being a jerk, I have to look and be like, all right, take a breath for a second. You have way more than you deserve. And so losing her kind of flipped the game for me because I was taking everything for granted. Yeah. I don't take a day for granted now. And
That's beautiful.
Family comes first. That is the biggest piece. If you have a family and you're not putting them first, none of this other stuff matters. So for instance, my wife and I, every Friday, 1:00, standing date, not negotiable. I do not schedule anything there. We have an hour and a half every Friday. It's funny. Last week I had somebody want to do a showing this coming Friday and they're like, can you do 1:00? And I said, no. And they said, why? And I said, I have a date with my wife every Friday at 1:00. They said, that's pretty awesome. We'll see you at 11. And I have somebody else I want to refer you.
Yeah.
People want to be part of the authenticity.
Yes.
And so that kind of changed everything for me. Everything that I do, I decide family first. I don't miss games. I don't miss recitals. I don't miss gymnastics. That is what is important. And anybody who is working with you that you want to work with totally gets that. And they want to lift you up.
And those boundaries, once again, a lot of people in real estate don't have that. So they'll just say, okay, so let's go and sacrifice. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I want to make sure I'm reading this. I'm not ignoring it. I want to make sure I get this right. So your dad always said, you do what you want and the rest is excuses. So how did that mindset kind of help formulate where you are right now?
It's written on a dry erase board in my office. Okay. I couldn't erase it if you wanted to. That's been on there for so long. But he said that all the time. And that was basically, you're in control. Okay. I don't want to hear an excuse of, well, I didn't do this. No, you do what you want. Right. And the rest is excuses. So this is pointing the finger back at me. And I have this conversation with my 9-year-old all the time is take responsibility. Anytime you get yelled at, well, they did this or mom did this or no. You had a decision to make. You made a decision. Now take responsibility for it. And so that has kind of stuck with me. And that's how I built my businesses and how I lead on, take responsibility for what you can control, the rest out of your hands. And that's what you do.
Keep it beyond.
Right.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you have your clear boundaries for your family time, where work belongs here. So one of the things that naturally happens to practitioners inside of real estate is they start sacrificing more and more of their me time. I'll get to me time later because I just got to get this deal done, or I got this closing, or I got the car payment next week. Me time will come later. So that can't just keep getting kicked down the road. So between golf and bourbon, like how not why, but how do those things help you stay sharp and more centered on who you really are?
Good question. And I'm guilty as anybody of doing that, having to bring it back to center. Golf is kind of a way for me to connect with close friends and take time away where I'm away from everything. Where I can, and even by myself, I want to go, we have a simulator in the basement. So sometimes I go out there and just hit balls and just clear my mind and relax, not be thinking about all the work stuff. Right? I think of bourbon as a connector. Not everybody drinks, and I'll go have a coffee with you or whatever you want. But bourbon has kind of become something I used to chase as a thing. Not anymore, but it's a connector because so many people know it exploded so much that it's a good way to talk to somebody or connect with somebody over content. And so I can do that on my own, just with one in the evening to just relax after a long day, or with somebody who's in my circle. It's a good way to have a way to start conversations.
So if you weren't in real estate right now, what do you think you'd be doing?
Good question. I'd be building something, whether that is a team or coaching, or people tell me all the time, two things. I would have been a really good attorney, a trial attorney, because I love to argue.
Okay.
And then lately, I really think I'd enjoy being a sports agent.
Okay.
I never did that cross my mind before. But I watched kind of what happens to some of these guys, and I got to know some agents, and I think it would be a fun thing for the access part that me and my son like, but also intrinsically valuable to me on making sure these guys take care of and the best deals.
I mean, looking at it from the outside, you see movies like Jerry Maguire, you see, there was one on HBO for a while. The Rock had a show.
Ballers or something.
Yeah. You see like kind of the drama, Real Housewives of sports management. So, I mean, you've seen it a lot closer than I have. I mean, I would assume it's very similar to what you mentioned earlier about taking up for these athletes, protecting them. Is there a lot of that drama that happens, or is that more just fabrication?
Be very careful. I'll answer this question.
Okay.
Yeah, it's stuff goes on
Okay.
all over the place, everywhere. It is not what you see on TV.
Yeah.
It is there's a lot that goes on that I would love to see it be different, but you got to keep in mind every big sports organization is a business, and so even though these guys are human beings, it's business, and so you might be the best guy on the team last year, and you may get sent overseas tomorrow.
Cool.
And it happens, and I've seen it, and there's personal relationships that come with it. But that's part of the business.
Yeah, it's that. Like, okay, so the one that became really relevant or became evident to me is like Josh Arez used to live down the street.
Yeah.
And everyone loved it. And I learned that the MLS handles things differently with players and not who owns you, but like where the contract is sitting, it's not with the individual team, it's with the league. So they can pass players around as they see fit to kind of shuffle the deck. And I can see I'm touching on something, but yeah, I found that very peculiar that he was here one day, gone the next, and he's not a young man anymore. So I'm sure that impacted his family, his career, and his prospects.
Changes everything. I mean, think about if you're in Columbus, Ohio, and all of a sudden you're traded or you're sold to Colombia or Spain,
Right.
and you have young children. What does that look like for your kids and your family and your wife to go, or even from Columbus, Ohio to LA or New York or Miami? It is a totally different lifestyle.
Yes.
It's a totally different level of what things cost. I mean, you got to adjust to all these different things. So it's a very interesting world that they live in. And I've gotten to see very intimately it. There's the good, the bad, and the ugly, but there's all in all, it's a positive.
Yeah. So you said that most agents don't realize it's not about them. So this is a very self-serving industry. Admittedly, what advice would you give to an agent that doesn't necessarily know how to break out of that?
I think I get to repeat myself, but flip the camera around.
Okay.
Turn it around and make it about the client. It's not about you. As much as us as an industry, make it look like, who's in the top 15%, the top 10%, who's the top agents. All that is just such noise. And I fell into it. I'm as guilty as anybody. I chased it and I chased it and I chased it. And now I look at it and I'm like, you're only as good as your last deal. Do you think anybody cares how many deals I did last year? No. I chased it because I thought it was awesome. And for me, it's great. I needed to do it for me. But the clients want to know, what can you do for me today? What are you going to do to me the most way from my house? What are you going to do to get me in a house for lease? Right. That's what I care about. And do you really care about them, or do you care about the paycheck? I finally put myself in a position where the paycheck doesn't matter, and we are not chasing the paycheck. Everything changes.
Well, I mean, to that point, you said no to a large listing. Was it a listing? Mm-hmm. You said no to a large listing just because it wasn't a fit. Yeah. So for an agent who is stuck in, I have a car payment due next week, like how would you advise them to start pulling themselves out of that?
It's scary. I mean, here's what I've seen some of my top agent friends who were struggling almost out of the industry. They put a coaching program on a credit card, took a chance, $10,000 on a credit card, and said, Ryan Serhan, Tyler Mount, whoever it can be, find somebody who is doing it and listen to what they're saying and put it into practice. That's the only way you're going to survive. You've got to find somebody who's doing it, who has done it. Learn from them. If you're a newer agent or you're struggling, find a team and find a team lead that cares to do that. Learn from them and then go out and do your own thing.
And a team lead that is a good team lead will not disperse you for coming for a little bit, learning, and growing.
I tell people all the time as I'm interviewing and team members now, I've told Ben's been with me for a long time now. So you want to start your own thing? I'll help you. You want to open an office across the street? I'll help you. Yeah. You're not taking my business. I'm not taking your business. And I preach about this when I talk on stage is those at the bottom are competing. Those at the top are collaborating. And once you flip that switch, you get that, you're going to be at the top.
So you mentioned something about coaching. So I'm sure that you talked to, interview, and had coaches. So I got a coach for the first time maybe about a year ago. And I was attracted to the coaching program that was stuff that I enjoyed. So like I have a penchant for marketing and operations, and I'm really good at those things. I'm not that good at sales. So for most of my career, I didn't realize I was deficient on the sales aspect of it. So I got into a coaching program that was all about marketing, newsletters, video, scripting, yada, yada, yada. Something I wasn't already good at. So I think a mistake that I made with coaching, picking the wrong coach, was I was attracted to something that I enjoyed, not something that I was deficient at. So with you going into the brand play, was that like the Tyler, was that an intentional pick because that's what you were deficient on? And how would you advise an agent to kind of figure out what they're deficient on?
100%. To answer your question, yes, that's why I chose Tyler. There's a bunch of coaches out there, a bunch that I know personally. Mm-hmm. Tyler is the brand guy. He understands how to take it from ear to ear and create that personal brand, not the team brand, personal brand, because that's what lasts. And so that's why I picked Tyler. There's a bunch of coaches that do many different things. I think that you need to sit down and really look at your business and say, what am I good at? What am I not good at? And nobody really wants to talk about what they're not good at, right? But you got to sit and identify, okay, here's what I'm not good at. And that's who you need to reach out to for coaching. You already understand marketing. You already understand operation. Now, you could have somebody refine that. Right? I think of that as more like a networking group, of getting a group of like-minded guys that want to do that and really refine it. But for coaching, I didn't have a personal brand. I didn't know how to build a brand. When I opened my wife's chiropractic office, I literally went online and I made a logo. It's still our logo today. And it works. That's fine. But with Tyler, I had it professionally done. We have a professional website now that is just me, and we drive the traffic of me to there. And there's more pieces than just real estate. So you got to figure out what you're deficient, sit down, and that is just looking at it you. And then I'd find that.
Gotcha. So what are you working on right now that you are allowed to talk about?
So ADTV is a big piece of what I'm doing right now.
Sure.
There's an opportunity to grow it even bigger. And so those are the talks we're having now.
Okay.
I'm growing the personal team again, which I swore I would never do. But I see a value in giving back. I feel like I've kind of cracked a little bit of a code of doing real estate without buying leads.
Yep.
And I want to help agents that want to do that, but I also only want to help agents that are going to put it.
Gotcha.
I work hard. And I expect everybody on my team to work hard.
You know, it's interesting that you say that because there's two schools of thought: being hyper picky or just drop the curtain, let everyone in. So I see two different schools of thought there. So the one thing I'm sure that you've seen is since you put on the velvet rope in the VIP club for your team, that you are attracting better, and you get to cherry pick even better from there.
I am, and you still attract everybody. Trust me, I get calls from people that just I know aren't going to do the things, but I do have the opportunity now to sit and say, okay, I built out the system. Here's what worked for me. And if you're going to be on a team, you're going to do A, B, and C. And I don't mean that as a dictator type way. I mean, if you want to have the production I had, I'm showing you the path to get that. Right? Can we alter that and a little bit because of your personality or your sphere? Absolutely. But if you're staying at home and taking 4-week vacations or not doing the things, we're not fit.
Yeah, the stat, 74% of agents haven't sold a house in 12 months. Scary, but it also is also not surprising. So I'm glad to see that you are elevating yourself above that, not in the highest way, but in a way that you can serve deeper.
That blew my mind.
Yeah.
That blew my mind.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, what is a good way for people to connect with you? Like, what is your favorite platforms? What's your way for them to DM you?
Yeah. Unfortunately, my phone's attached to me more than I would like. So Instagram is probably the best way.
Okay.
The Justin Bruce. I get on there a lot. But just texting me on my cell. Everything comes, the world we live in now.
Sure.
No matter how you come at me, it's coming to my phone in seconds. So, but I'd love to connect with anybody.
Okay. So is there anything that in the show notes, is there anything that you can give as far as like lead magnet or a resource that could help anyone who's potentially trying to live?
Yeah, I mean, there's a million things that I've done, but I don't have a system that I can hand out yet.
Okay.
I guess I can tell you this. We're building out a coaching program for ADTV.
There we go.
So me and 3 other agents are working on this with the CEO and behind the scenes with the staff there. So in the next couple of months, you're going to see that roll out. And
Okay.
I think anybody who sees this around the country, if they don't know what ADTV is,
Sure.
reach out to me and I will show you what it is and how it works. Because I know a lot of friends of mine who had tried it and didn't realize how to utilize it. They thought, I'll just film a TV show and I'm on TV. I'm like, but
Right.
there's a million ways to look at it. It's the rock you throw in. The ripples is where I make my money.
Okay.
So anybody that wants to reach out about that, I'd love to chat about it because I think that coaching program is going to elevate things.
Okay. So not necessarily know if you guys are going to watch this episode. So I think that's the play right there.
Yeah.
So have them reach out to you on your Instagram.
Yep.
Okay. And then say that I'm interested in the coaching program. So that way, at that point, maybe it's live.
Yeah, I would say over
And-
the next 2 months.
All right, perfect. All right, so if you want to get a hold of Justin, reach out to him on Instagram, follow him on Instagram, and make sure that you mention, DM him the coaching program so that we can get you down. And when it is live, or if it's live when you're watching this, even better. Awesome. Well, any final thoughts to the agents who are watching this that this is like the number one thing you are actually doing right now?
Authenticity. Personally. I mean, just go out, being you, lead with value, go out and just try to help people every day. I promise you, start doing that and leading first with the value, everything else falls.
Awesome. Thank you for your time, brother.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Look for